All miserable people have only one thing in common, okay? Just one. They're all ungrateful. All happy people have one thing in common. They're all grateful. So that's first thought. Second thought, smiling. Absolutely. Social capital in the world matters. If you don't know that by now, we have to sit and talk some more because it's so commonsensical. Now, you and I have spoken. I walk into the world and I see young people today in restaurants, in coffee shops. My dear friend, they look so depressed, apathetic, miserable, constipated. They look very, very unhappy. Now, they're ruining, without their knowing it, they're ruining their social capital. So smiling more, absolutely. And it should be an assignment that you give yourself daily. And third, walking outside. I have just become acquainted in the last couple years with that. It is more profound than I knew. So for decades of my life, I did not recognize the power of being outside, fresh air, of sunlight. I didn't realize how important it is to clear your head. Even a 10, 15-minute walk can really have value. And preferably where you walk should, if it can, be quiet, right? Urban environments are filled with such amount of relentless noise and UPS trucks backing up and FedEx and horns and sirens and cars that I think interrupts the experience. If you can walk in a quiet environment, that I think is good.
I don't disagree, and I've heard the cliche of having gratitude. I think it's good. I would never dispute that. Practically speaking, when you have a very ambitious plan and you're in the beginning of that journey, and I guess the paradox there is you always feel like you're at the beginning of the journey because as you succeed, your goals change. How do you practice gratitude when you're not where you want to be?
I believe you're really making a very profound point, which is successful people have a restless heart, a restless soul. So they don't sit around most of the day saying, "Isn't life wonderful? Isn't great life amazing?" They say, "Wait a second. I can do better. We can do better." On the other hand, I ask you to acknowledge my point, which is all miserable people, all depressed people have ingratitude, uh, as part of their malady. And ingratitude is a success. Unhappiness is a success killer. So I think there's a role for gratitude. On the other hand, I think there's a role for relentless ambition. And, I think you make a very good point.
Why do you think you mentioned that when you walk into restaurants or cafes, you see this younger generation very unhappy? Why do you think that is? Or why do you think, if it's a lack of gratitude, why do you think they have a lack of gratitude?
Well, look, friend, I don't know except to tell you my best explanation is they look miserable because they feel miserable and they're screwed up in the head. I don't know what else to say. Now, why are they screwed up? Why are they screwed up? They look screwed up. They act screwed up. Why are they screwed up? Well, I guess there may be contributions to that terrible plight. Was COVID a contributor? I'm sure. Is social media a contributor? I'm sure. Is there lack of human contact by virtue of living and hiding on their phone and computer? I'm sure. Is excess computer game playing? I'm sure. They're screwed up because their lives have become screwed up because they've made screwed up life choices predicated on a sick culture. You and I have talked about this. Being well adjusted in a sick culture is no accomplishment, right? If we are
Right.
living, if you haven't figured this out yet, or people haven't figured this out, we're living in a very sick culture, right? And decaying and sick in many aspects. Not all. There are other wonderful parts of the culture, but most it's pretty decayed. Now, if you are well adjusted in this sick culture, you might have a problem that is worth thinking about, because I don't want to be well adjusted in this sick culture.
Did you
And
say you
date,
had
by the way,
gratitude? Yeah.
young people in dating, well, I can't meet anyone. It's all screwed up online. Well, I don't know what to say, except that you've got to reconfigure your life where you can meet quality people, right?
Mhm.
Maybe quality people are not on Tinder. I don't know. Maybe, or
Right.
maybe the percentage of them are not on Tinder. Well, but everybody meets that way. Well, then don't be everyone, you asshole. What's wrong with you? Do things that are calculated to bring you the life you yearn or allegedly yearn to have.
Right. And I think that is one of the unintended consequences of this work from home. I thought it was a
Great.
fantastic thing that happened, being able to work from home. And now I'm finding having to intentionally go out of my way to interact with people by finding things to go to, putting myself out there because what initially was a
Profoundly
convenience.
accurate.
Yeah.
100%. This quote, work from home, convenient, eating dinner with DoorDash. I get the convenience of it. It's a fool's plan. It's a fool's plan. We are social animals. Again, if you don't know this by a certain age, if you're walking around the planet over the age of 16 and you don't know that we're social animals, my God, what in the God's name we got to reconfigure your life a bit. So I think, right, I think working at home appeared to be a paradise. I don't have to commute. I don't. And I get it. And it was a paradise. And aspects of it were a paradise. However, it came with a great cost. There's another thought for you and for others. Don't eat dinner alone too many nights. That doesn't mean no nights, but a couple of nights a week, don't eat dinner alone. Just don't. And don't eat lunch alone every day. Well, I don't eat lunch. I work through my lunch. Well, that's fucked up. Don't do that. I mean, not every day. And you can work through lunch a couple of days. Part of life is human relations.
And I think if they were here to speak, they'd probably say, well, Michael, that's easy for you to say. When you were coming up, the home prices were cheaper. Now we can't afford a home. We have to work all the time. Do you see those as excuses, or do you see those as practical realities of what it's like to grow up and live in California right now with the rising home prices, cost of living, and things like that?
First of all, when I'm conversing with people, I have no desire to demean their point of view. None. So if they say, well, that's easy for you to say, I'd say, look, your strategy, what you're doing, right? You deem it necessary. How's it working for you? And by the way, home prices are too expensive in California. Then get the fuck out of California. I don't know. Go find another place to live. But my family's here. Well, I don't know. What do you want from me? Not
Right.
everybody can live on the top penthouse of a Fifth Avenue. You got to start every generation. Ask your parents or your grandparents how they started. Well, they didn't buy the ideal house at first, or they bought a condo and they fixed it up, and then they sold it and they sacrificed. And what do you want from my life? Do I think that prices in California are obscene? I do. Of course I do. And if you can't afford it, figure out either an alternative, right? Like a condo, maybe not an ideal, perhaps for the first, but the leaders are called on to solve tough problems. And if you are too busy to have a lunch once or twice a week with a business associate or a friend, you have other problems in your life. And I would also invite you to consider, how's that working for you? How's it going?
The more people I've met, the better my business has done.
Of course.
And it's not because I wasn't meeting them to improve my business. It just so happened that, and I think you had told me a story, and you can decide if you want to share it or not. You had told me the story of somebody who had helped with the sale of a business, and you couldn't find them because you hadn't heard from them for a long time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. He didn't stay in touch. I forgot his name. He didn't stay in touch. Now, I recognize that I grew up in a different time than you did. I get it. But there are some fundamental principles of life that were true then and true now, although they're disguised differently today. So I would go to lunch when I was your age. I would go to a business lunch 5 days a week, and I would often be booked 6 weeks in advance. So if I saw you and you said, Michael, let's have lunch, I would say, great. Take about 6 weeks to get on the schedule. So I was booked. Now, what I think is interesting is that during those lunches that I would have, I would say 75% of the conversation, or maybe perhaps more, but 75 at a minimum, was not talking about work or transactions. It was talking about life, about traffic and divorce and health and parents and God and it was just about life, right? And I know you do some of that as well. And I think that that's how you form not only a good network for yourself professionally and personally, but how you live a more engaged human experience. So, I'll ask people,
It
business owners all the time, when's the last time you saw this client? I text them. I don't. When did you have lunch with this client or this? Well, they're out of town. Okay. When did you have a Zoom call? When did you talk to them for 15 minutes? Do you know more about them, more or less about them, than your favorite TV character? Isn't that interesting? Does
mm.
a woman know more or less about her 10 biggest clients than she does about the girls on Sex and the City? Isn't that that's worth thinking about maybe. Now you may disagree and that's fine. And I know that there'll people who watch this and say, "Oh, you're out of your fucking mind. What are you talking about?" It's okay. I just think a second time about this stuff.
But knowing you, a lot of that was probably born less out of being transactional and more just being curious about people, about life,
Yes.
different perspective, things like that, as opposed to I was in an event last night and it was so many of the people were so transactional. Just here's my business
Paradoxically,
card. Yeah,
call me if you need something. It's paradoxical that transactional thinking is actually a detriment
right.
to increased transaction. Isn't that interesting? That's so crazy, right?
Hey, it kills the genuineness of the conversation to me where mid conversation a business card comes out and a sales pitch follows, then I don't feel like it's a genuine connection anymore. It's like, oh, okay, this was all part of the plan.
There's nothing wrong with giving someone a business card, assuming, by the way, if anyone watching this has a business card and they're under the age of 50, I commend them. I'm a big believer in having business cards, which I know renders me Neanderthal and insane to many. Big believer in, if you want to say, hey, it's very nice to meet you. If I can ever help in any way, let me know. But this
Right.
transact, even people agreeing to have lunch. When 30 years ago, if I asked someone to lunch, no one ever said, for what? Today, I think there's a thinking, "Oh, what are you going to have lunch for? I just want to talk. Well, then send me a text, send me an email.
Right.
No, this is no wonder. Look into the fate, go to Starbucks, go to Ralph's or supermarket, go to any place where there's large public, right? Costco. Look into the faces of young people. Look at them. That lack of any happiness or smile, or they look so miserable, sad. This is
Would
a
you
very,
say
very
if we looked at
problem.
you when you were younger, what would we see? Would we see someone that was very happy, positive,
No, you'd see
all that?
someone
Or
very
Mhm.
ambitious, and busy and ambitious. I don't think I was particularly, if someone smiled at me, I would smile back, or I would smile at them. And I would certainly say good morning. So many of the people today, the phrase, it's not a very kind way of saying it. They were raised by wolves. Who raised you? Who told you that this is good thinking? Right? Who led you to believe that if you continue to behave this way in the next 5 years, that your life will be better than it is today? Who sold you on that plan?
You're talking about being antisocial?
Antisocial, unhappy, great. You've heard me say this before. A little charm and grace will take you many places in life that mere hustle never can or will. A little charm and grace. Well, when's the last time you looked into the eyes of someone under 30 and resonated to a little charm and grace? And by the way, if I can be very open with you, I'm going to be
Mhm.
very straight. I don't know what percentage, but it's not zero. When I look into the faces of young people at restaurants and other service coffee houses, not only do they look depressed, they look either hungover or stoned or both, right? So the normalization, the celebration and normalization of marijuana, pot, and they don't look with it. They don't look sharp. They look either hungover, which they may be, stoned, which they may be, or both. Not all. Obviously, there's exceptions, but not too many are that way. That's not good.
Right.
Wake the hell up.
But also means it's an easy time to kind of stand out, right? For somebody who is
Oh
ambitious,
my
somebody
God,
who
what a profound. If people hear nothing more than that, you've given them a great gift. How it is so easy to stand out today because you've been born into a world at exactly the moment in human history in which your competition is stupid and lazy. Man, how simple. How simple. I teach my staff on Sunday. You want to do something really dynamic for your life, really dynamic, mostly young people under 35 would say, yes, they do. Okay, great. Go buy a box of stationery, get some stamps, and then every Sunday, take a half hour of your life, just a half hour. You can even do it while you're watching football if you'd like, and write handwritten notes to every single person in the week prior who did something worthy of gratitude. That's the gratitude message we talked about. So if you went to the dentist's office and the dentist receptionist was kind to you, write her a note. Just send her a note. It doesn't have to be long. If the dentist was kind to you, send him a note, or her, as it were. If, a friend of yours was kind or thoughtful or helped you with something, write a note. First of all, the receiver of the note will be so stunned that they're getting anything other than a bill in the mail. It's so easy to stand out. What did we say on this so far today? Carry a business card, write a thank you note, and smile. Hello? And your point,
right.
it's so easy to stand out.
And I think what
I
you
mean,
said goes
talk
across the
about
board
yours.
from dating to business
Yes,
to
yes,
just your
yes,
own
yes.
life.
By the way,
This is
yeah,
not just business we're talking about.
no, it's life. I can tell you, in the course of my life, I've been married, as I think you know, twice. I've divorced twice. Just painful, very painful, but we'll discuss that at a later time. I can tell you that in hundreds of dinner dates, lunch and dinner dates that I was on in my life, hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know, hundreds, right? If you said to me, Michael, tell me in the hundreds and hundreds of dinner dates and lunches and dinners you've been on, how many times did you either get a handwritten thank you note, a telephone call the next day, or an email the next day to say, hey, I just want to let you know I had a really lovely time. Thank you. From a woman? The answer is, I don't know, maybe three. So 3 out of 500? It's not good. Who raised them? Now, what did they say thank you on the evening? Maybe. But the next day you call, you write, a little courtesy, right? A little charm and grace.
Mhm.
Now, you have a very, very successful legal practice and you're a young man. You're not a kid, but you're a young man. What are the
Right.
keys to your success socially, humanly? Go, explain it to
Yeah,
me.
and there was not really planned. When I started my own practice, one of the challenges I had is how do I get clients? I guess that's the
Yep,
challenge any new business has.
right.
And with a $0 marketing budget, and cases just started coming in, and I remember trying to analyze where are they coming from, how are they coming, so I could replicate that. And one of the initial realizations I had is it was just from meeting people and talking to people and having a genuine connection. In fact, some
By the
of
way,
my
excuse
biggest
me for
yeah,
interrupting you. You said meeting and talking to people.
right,
Brilliant. But I have a note for you. It's not fully complete. Meeting people, check. Talking to people, check. Listening to people, double check. Listening, talking and listening. Saying to a
right,
human, how are you? Last week I broke my leg. Really? How did that happen? Well, I was skiing. Oh, do you like to ski? Yeah, but I broke my leg. Oh, what's the prognosis? What? Come on, man. Listen.
right.
In
No, you're 100% right. I would say 3 out of 4 of my biggest cases have come from random conversations where I never even said I was a lawyer. I wasn't expecting anything to happen, and it was, maybe the person on the initial contact didn't even find out I was a lawyer. We never even talked about what we do, but we ended up exchanging information because, it was an interesting conversation, and then when they did find out I'm a lawyer, all of a sudden, "My god, I have this big thing I wanna talk to you about," or, "This thing happened to me," or, "My cousin's going through something, can you talk to them?" And I think, nowadays, especially when it comes to fields we don't know much about, like we don't trust mechanics, we don't trust lawyers. There's a bunch of fields where the trust level is very low. People don't know how to gauge, who's good and who's not a lot of times. And so they have to go by gut instinct. Who do I have a connection with? Who do I feel like listens to me and I'm having a genuine connection with as opposed to something transactional? And those are the type of people we like to work with. Those are the type of people we like to date. Those are the type of people we like to do anything with. And so to answer your question, I think just being curious, and I know you have this as well. I've seen you in action. Just having a curiosity about the world and people, and like you said, listening and asking questions, not to get to any sort of objective, other than satisfying perhaps our own curiosity, and also just having human connection with people. And so I think that's allowed me, without really much of a marketing budget, to have a lot of clients that I think a lot of people that aren't doing that are, and then by the way, this is just who I was. This wasn't some plan, but I realized that is marketing, unintentional marketing.
people in the end, people do business with people they know, like, and they respect. Well, wouldn't it be
Right.
reasonable to assume that before someone likes and respects you, they got to know you? Isn't that reasonable?
Right.
So there we are. Your point, it is so easy to stand out today. It is so easy to stand out today. Sadly, I guess, because the world is kind of, I don't know, kind of screwed up in many, many ways. I look into the face of these
Right.
young people. I don't know. Oh my God. Who hurt you? What is wrong with you? You're living in America. You're living in my God, the opportunities that exist for you, and yet you wanna just
And you're right. And
concern me.
having that gratitude, being able to have gratitude puts you in a mindset where you can be yourself and be outgoing and want to interact with people. And you're right. If you don't have that gratitude, you're always just miserable. And if you're miserable, what's going to make you want to talk to a stranger or go to a lunch or plan these things? Because, when you're miserable, you're not, that's just not your mindset.
And
So I
it's
think you're right.
frankly not very attractive, right? It's just
Right.
not that appealing. So, anyway, these are interesting topics. I hope they're of some modest value to anyone who's observed it, and I'm particularly hopeful that some of our younger friends can get something out of it that can, even if what you're hearing is discomforting, right? And it
Right.
may be, and I hope it is. It's okay to rock the boat when the boat is sinking.
That's a good one. Well, I have
Oh, yeah.
gratitude for you spending time,
And
30 minutes on
and
a
it's fun to
Sunday.
talk to you,
And
yeah. All right. Well,
all right.
we'll see
Well,
you
thank you,
next
Michael.
month. Bye.
Sounds good. See you.